Hey guys, so today we're going to talk about something that may seem counterintuitive, but trust me, it's going to change your life because being vulnerable is actually a turn on and very attractive to high value, desirable women. Now, I know what you're thinking. No way, Anna. Yes, vulnerability is often seen as a weakness, especially in a society that values strength and stoicism from men. But hear me out. Does this sound like you? You feel very uncomfortable opening up to people. Maybe so much so that you don't even approach women, or when you do, you mess up your conversations, or you might even get some dates, but eventually they kind of fizzle out, and you're starting to lose hope of ever finding someone special. Now let's see how we can change the trajectory of your story and the reason a woman's biology is the reason the two types of vulnerability either attract her or instantly repel her. If you're new to my channel, I help men decode modern women so you can find, attract, and keep your keeper. My channel is for you if you accept that while women definitely need to learn and appreciate a lot more about men, you can only do what you can do. Welcome to Just the Tip. First, let's define what I mean by vulnerability. Vulnerability is about being open, honest, and transparent about your thoughts, feelings, and experiences without worrying too much about what others think or how they might judge you. So why is vulnerability such a turn on for women? Ultimately, it's about confidence, but there's something else. It's the mentor of confidence, courage. And courage is being afraid but doing it anyway. And vulnerability takes a ton of courage. It shows you're confident and secure in yourself. When you're willing to be vulnerable by approaching women, talking with them, engaging with them, expressing your desire for them, escalating seduction, and expressing vulnerability in other ways, examples to follow, it shows you're comfortable in your own skin and you're able to be open and honest about your feelings. This kind of confidence is incredibly attractive. It shows women that you're emotionally intelligent. Key point. This kind of emotional intelligence is actually highly attractive to emotionally healthy women because it proves you're able to communicate effectively and handle your emotions in an emotionally healthy way. When you master masculine vulnerability with a woman, it allows for a deeper level of intimacy and connection. And more on how that influences some bang chicka wow wow in a minute. And key point, by opening up and sharing your true thoughts and feelings, you're inviting her to be able to do the same thing, creating a stronger bond. But there is a time when vulnerability is an instant major turnoff. How to tell if your expression of vulnerability will make her want to get closer to you or instantly repel her. Coming up. But first, let's look at your new story. You decide you are tired of being alone and lonely, and you do want to settle down without settling. You now know you'll need to be vulnerable with women in order to be able to get into a relationship that's deep and meaningful. And that's scary, no question. So your first call to action is to actually make the decision that you're willing to risk being vulnerable with women. This is a difficult choice for you because you're afraid that by being vulnerable, it'll actually show weakness. And you tend to want to put your walls up when that happens. The first hurdle you face is the threshold, or the point of no return. This is the moment when you choose whether or not you're willing to take that risk because you know that there is going to be pain and hurt along the way because that's just part of the journey. So after a lot of contemplation and watching some of my videos, you decide, what the heck, it's worth the risk. I'm going to jump in and try this vulnerability thing. And as you navigate the challenges of being vulnerable, maybe you come back to this video, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you learn and remind yourself that to master masculine vulnerability is actually a sign of strength and courage, not weakness. You begin to embrace your vulnerability and discover that you are having more deep and meaningful conversations with the women you've been talking with. One day you meet a woman you instantly know has potential. Long-term potential. You decide to go all in with positive vulnerability and leave negative vulnerability on the bench for now. Let's look at some examples of positive vulnerability. 1. You share your feelings about a difficult experience you're facing or have faced. Key point. And are overcoming or are learning from. By opening up about something that's been a challenge for you, you show that you're willing to be vulnerable and you trust her with this personal information. 2. You open up and are honest about an insecurity. Key point, that you are actively working on changing or accepting. Everyone has insecurities, and it can actually make her want to get closer to you when you share some of your insecurities. Now, this does seem counterintuitive, and I'm going to explain more on the negative side of this in a minute, so stick with me. By sharing your insecurity, you show her that you are comfortable enough to be open and honest and confident in yourself. You're not trying to hide it. There's no reason to hide it. And another way of doing this is number 3. You ask her opinion about something that's important to you. Key point, to show her you care about her thoughts and see her as a teammate. The key points are the hints as to what the vulnerabilities are that attract her and those that repel her. And don't worry, I'm going to spell it all out. Asking for women's help or support can be very difficult for men. They usually see this as a weakness, especially men who are people pleasers or feel the need to be self-sufficient. But by being willing to ask for her help, support, or input, you're actually showing her that you're confident enough within yourself to be vulnerable and that you respect her input. Okay, now I know what you're thinking, so let's address that. Asking for her help can be attractive because it shows that you're not so stuck on having to have it all figured out that you're not willing to ask other people for their input. You're comfortable being vulnerable in asking because you want to find a solution. Key point. Emotional positive or masculine vulnerability leads to emotional intimacy and intelligence. Emotional intimacy and intelligence makes her feel safe. And key point, emotional intimacy makes physical intimacy way better for her and you. Okay, now let's look at the difference between masculine and non-masculine vulnerability. It's actually about your mindset behind it. If your vulnerability comes from a place of love, compassion, empathy, or connection, well, that's damn sexy. Vulnerabilities that are turn-ons, telling a woman that you want her, telling your son you love him, shedding a tear when your dad dies or your dog, shedding a tear when Mel Gibson yells freedom at the end of Braveheart, and you're not even human if you didn't choke up at that scene. Now, what about the kind of vulnerability that instantly turns women off? This is expressed vulnerability that comes from a place of only fear, neediness, manipulation, or dependency, or victimhood. This kind of vulnerability is actually an instant turn-off to women because of biology. There's actually a biological reason why she can't control how she experiences positive, masculine, or negative, non-masculine vulnerability, and I'll share that in a moment. First, let's look at the previous examples as if they came from a place of non-masculine vulnerability. 1, you share your feelings about a difficult experience or challenge you're facing, but, key point, you haven't made any attempts to overcome it or learn from it. Fear, neediness, victimhood. By opening up about something that you're having a challenge with but are not willing to do anything about, actually shows that you're willing to stay stuck in victim mode. Does that make a woman feel emotionally safe? Hint, no. 2, you've opened up and been honest about an insecurity, but, key point, you're not actively working on dealing with or fully accepting fear, neediness, victimhood, and potentially manipulation. As I've said, everyone's got insecurities, but, key point, if you're not working on overcoming it and constantly looking for her validation to feel okay, then she's going to go into mother mode, not lover mode. By sharing your insecurity in this way and not doing anything about it, it shows you're not actually comfortable in your own skin. 3, you ask for her opinion on something important. But, key point, it's not because you care about her thoughts and input as a teammate, but because you're completely lost and need to be taken care of. Fear, neediness, victimhood. Does that make her feel emotionally safe? No. Non-masculine vulnerability turn-offs. Sharing your sob story to try to manipulate her into liking you. Blaming others for where you are in life. Crying or begging her to give you another chance. That's a really instant turn-off. Complaining that Josh got a promotion even though you always leave work early. And bitch about your boss. Now, you may think she's just mean and selfish, but there's a huge difference between nurturing and mothering. This is biology. She can't control her biology. Just like you look at boobs. You can't help but notice DNA because you're a guy. Key point. Nurturing comes from a place of feminine generosity when she feels safe in your masculine frame. Mothering comes from a place of necessity when she doesn't feel safe in your masculine frame. Essentially, you're taking on the role of a child, therefore she must take on the role of the mother. If you act like a dependent, like a child, a needy child, she will instantly get turned off and go into mother mode. Mother mode suppresses arousal mode. Of course, some days, even the most masculine, strong, emotionally centered men have days where they feel afraid. This is a natural emotion, especially if you're taking risks in life. But, key point, in order for her to feel safe in your overall masculinity and strength, when those weak moments of non-masculine vulnerability do show up, she needs to have enough strong, positive masculine vulnerability and other traits in the piggy bank so that she can draw on that when you have days or moments, not days, moments of vulnerability that is coming from a place of weakness. In other words, nope, you can't be weak or scared most of the time, or at least you can't express that to her. And yes, sometimes it's a fine line. You may be feeling love and fear, but one will have a greater weight for you in that situation. And deep down, you know which one that is. So is it coming from fear or is it coming from love? When you've mastered masculine vulnerability, she'll be attracted to your confidence and emotional intelligence. And then you can begin a deeply satisfying relationship with some of the best you've ever had. The right type of vulnerability is not a weakness. It's actually a strength, and it will help you find, attract, and keep a keeper who you can develop a deep and meaningful connection with. It is possible to find love by being open and honest with women, and mastering masculine vulnerability is the key to finding and keeping a keeper. And if you want to know the difference between a masculine vulnerability and non-masculine vulnerability with a couple of real life examples, you'll want to watch my video on She Leaves a Guy at Rock Bottom and find out at the end what happened to Bob when he lost his job right after getting married. You'll want to be like Bob. And if you have struggled with some insecurities that you're just having a difficult time getting through or getting past, then I encourage you to talk to a counselor or therapist. If you don't have someone, I do have a company that I recommend. And if you use my link, then you will get a discount on your first session. Thanks for being here. God bless.